I don't write political songs. I don't take a fucking stand for this and a stand for that. Like, whatever. If that's your bag, that's cool. That's not what Cable's about. You know, it's more of a personal thing. It's just as cheesy as it is, whatever. It's my outlet to get shit off my chest. I don't write songs about the good shit because I don't feel a need to write songs about the good shit. The good shit is good, and you can deal with that on a daily basis. It's the bad shit that you have trouble getting through, you know?
For whatever reason, I went into that show with kind of a bad attitude. I don't know why.
I'm Charlie Critch. I've known these guys since probably the early or middle 90s. Vic I met, he was like a little kid, fat little roly-poly. Played drums really bad, but you know, you couldn't help but like the kid because he did try. Randy was like maybe about 16 and it was in a band called Momentum, and he was like this straight edge band, and I never really liked that kind of music, but he was a local band, so I thought, well, you know, you got to help the local kids out, you know. So I got a copy of the tape, and then he played a couple shows here, and I've known them really kind of ever since, mainly through the club called Studio 158 that both of those guys were like major contributors to, not just in you know, in terms of playing bands there, but booking shows and just running the club.
We're Cable.
Well, the beginning of Cable, me and Vic were in a band called Structure together,
Okay.
kind of like a crappy hardcore band, and towards the end of that we asked Randy to join the band. He was friends with the singer for Structure, and Randy and Vic really hit it off, and they were like, why don't we just start our own band, do our own thing. I felt a little left out. I remember thinking like, oh, you know, I'd like to play with those guys, you know. And a month and a half later they called me and was like, yeah, you know, come on down, try out or whatever, and it was pretty horrible. I remember like the first couple practices were really bad. We had some people whose names I don't even remember playing in the band at that point, and then eventually we got this guy Matt Becker, who we'd all been friends with for a long time. So the lineup was Vic on drums, Randy on guitar and vocals, Matt on guitar, and me on bass. And it was pretty bad for a while, and then, you know, we recorded the demo. I think that was in either late 93 or early 94. And things just started to roll after that. It was like, you know, we might have something here. This isn't so bad. This is like music I'd actually want to hear if I wasn't playing it.
So talk about Studio 158 a little bit.
It was an attempt to open a punk rock club in Eastern Connecticut, which really didn't have much of any kind of music scene. There were like kind of sporadic shows at basements and houses, and you know, being punk rock, it's just people doing anything they could anywhere they could. But the idea was if we could just get one central place where stuff could happen on a more regular basis, it would just maybe this scene would just start to explode and take off. And to an extent, I think that is kind of what happened through a lot of just trial and error and doing stuff with no money. It was a lot of just do-it-yourself kind of ethics, and it was open to a lot of different people trying to do a lot of different things. And so you got good and bad, but I think, looking back 10 years, one of the great things that came out of that whole scene was cable and people like that who, really had a lot to say and just needed a place to say it. You could just you walk down the street, you don't even, it just looks like a face or something. You don't know who they are, but some of these people are really talented, and this gave those kind of people a chance to show that they just weren't a nose or a mouth or an arm. There's a lot of shit going on there, and I think people were amazed at kind of what a lot of these folks could do, and you're hearing it now, but to have heard it kind of like over for 10 years is just a really special kind of thing.
Who were some of the other things the other names that came out of that period? I mean, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I mean, like the major one that you hate to sort of like name drop. It's probably gonna be Hatebreed. Jamie Josta was putting on shows there and playing, really? Playing stuff. Even long before that, he was in Josta 14. But this was sort of right on the period where Josta 14 sort of died, and he took on Hatebreed, and. He's obviously sort of a major star today, but he's still, to me, just a little, kind of kid who couldn't really put on a show very well, He'd tell you like 3 bands were playing and there'd be 8 and they'd be all different than the 3 he had told you. But he was just such a nice kid. You couldn't really ever like want to smack him in the face or anything. He was just a kind of a character.
What was your relationship to them? How did you help them book the shows? Did you help them?
Actually, that was the good thing about being DIY. Anybody could do it, and in fact, I was actually happier that the people like Vic and Randy, from the band would want to do it, and not only want to do it, but do just a fabulous job. So it's one less thing I had to do. The thing was that. If you're going to deal like to get a club, you need some older face to go in there and put the respectability on there. And I'm a lawyer and much older. I was 40 at the time, so I had a certain kind of credibility walking in the door. If you're 20 years old and have a bunch of tattoos on, the guy's going to have a heart attack that you're trying to talk to. He's going to be dead before you can sign a lease. So that's kind of what I figured I could do. And I kind of got into that music from just listening to a lot of it in the 80s. And so it was just kind of a natural thing to go with it. But it was kind of, I felt their scene, it was their group, and they could do with what they wanted once we had a space. Other people are trying to, other people have clubs, they try to live on it. I'm a lawyer, I don't have a lot of, need to have some side business. This is just a pleasure thing for me. If we didn't make rent one month, I could pay some money. But if I'm trying to live off the club, suck the blood out of the movement, then that's, to me, is just bullshit. The kids are doing this stuff for, the sake of wanting to do it and the love of at least at the time. I guess today maybe it's a lot different, but at the time people did it because that was their life. That defined in a large way who they were and what they expected of the world. And it gave them a chance to kind of interconnect and network with other people who had the same kind of dreams. It wasn't poisoned by money or greed or anything else. And to have a fucking demo out was like a major accomplishment. I mean, people were smiling from New York to California. Well, I got my fucking demo, and to be able to trade it or sell it or give it away was just like one of the best experiences you could have as a 15-year-old kid.
a bunch of shows. We played at a Studio 158 a record amount of times. We must have played there at least 20 times. But that was like the, DIY club to play in Connecticut. It was either there or the Tune-In, and we were more of the 158 DIY punk rock kind of ethic.
Mm-hmm.
What else did I do in the band? I recorded a couple 7-inches, and then about a year and a half into me playing in the band, or 2 years, Randy decided to quit for a while, and that's when Bernie joined on guitar and vocals, and I don't know, I just wasn't very happy with it, and it just wasn't working out, and I was like, well, this band isn't this band without Randy. And oddly enough, Randy replaced me once I was done with the band. It was kind of a mutual thing. I don't think it was working. I wasn't working with them, they weren't working with me. It just wasn't happening. So so somewhere around 95, 96, I was out and Randy was back in, and it's pretty much been Vic, Bernie, and Randy, like that lineup for a while.
I'm Bernie, and I played guitar from about 96 to 2004, 95. I think 95 I started playing with the band. And basically just met those guys through a band I used to be in called Claremont. And we played a lot. Claremont played a lot at Studio 158, and I met Vic. Vic was the one that was booking all of our shows out there. And played guitar, obviously. And it got to a point where I'd seen Cable play a bunch of times, and actually the first time I saw Cable play was the show that Jeff stormed off the stage for whatever reason. I don't know. To this day, I still don't know why he did, but I remember seeing Randy shut off his rig and go outside, follow Jeff outside, and the whole crowd, probably 100 of us, just kind of stood there. Nobody seemed surprised. I was surprised, but nobody really seemed all that surprised. It seemed like everybody was in on some sort of something about the band where they almost expected something like that to happen, or they weren't surprised that it did happen. And after about 5 minutes, Jeff and Randy came back in. They both turned on their amps, didn't say a word to each other, and Cable resumed the set. And it was probably about maybe a month after that after my band played a show at 158, that Vic and Matt Becker approached me and asked me to join the band to fill in Randy's spot, because Randy at that time was playing guitar. Cable was really thought of as one of the bigger bands from the area. There were a handful. There was Cable, there was Thinner, there was In Vain, and I thought of Cable as being at the top of those three bigger bands from the 158, Eastern Connecticut kind of scene. As soon as I went to that one practice, that was it. I was pretty much in.
I always thought their shows were kind of you never knew what was going to happen, really. You never knew who was going to show up and who was going to show up, what they were going to play. I mean, this is really the earliest days of Cable. Really, they played some of their first shows at 158. So, who was in the band this week, and then it's like, well, who's, what are they playing? Because Randy would sing, sometimes he wouldn't sing, play guitar, maybe bass, is Jeff still in the band? I mean, or is he, flipping out, going somewhere else? Matt, who was just like a pain in the ass, But I can't really, what I'm saying. I just kind of want to encourage this and not like take part in it, So you just hope they figure out what they're going to do and do it. They had Aaron singing for a while, and he came with his own bag of tricks and bag of baggage. But good guy. I always liked him. Cable shows were always. I knew they were going to be loud. They were going to be kind of sinister and just heavy. Just really, you're going to have to think about cable. It wasn't some little fluff, pop punk band that you've heard 5,000 of. And they always managed to book shows that had other bands where they had things to say too. So you knew you were going to have a good time. You just didn't know how good or how much pain. And I always thought that I never really kind of liked Cable at first, but as soon as I started to go deaf, they became suddenly like a lot better band to me. And now that I don't hear so well, I mean they're like great. And I listen to many days a week. But I like their early stuff. It started off a lot more noisy, I think. And I'm not really a connoisseur of that style of music, but it kind of incorporated a lot more of that kind of crazy slashing kind of noise that it was such a new sound really, because it wasn't the your Gorilla Biscuits hardcore kind of stuff, and it wasn't the real pop punk that was Green Day, whoever was playing it then, and it was sort of emo but not really, because it was a lot heavier and a lot more was going on, but it was good. I mean, it was, I don't know, it's like something you do because you have to do it, it makes you stronger in character, as opposed to something you're doing just because it's easy and fun. So that's kind of how I always thought, their shows were like a badge of honor to have survived a cable show.
Writing for Variable Speed Drive was really strange. We started to write with me and the band. It was me, Becker, Jeff, and Vic. Becker and I did most of the writing, just guitar stuff. And we as a band started to write. And I remember Randy coming down, and this is going to suck. And we went over to the practice space, and it's like I was physically standing in Randy's old spot because I set my stuff up where his guitar stuff used to be. And he sat on the other drum set that was in the room, for 2 hours and watched us play the new songs that we'd written. And he was cool about it. He said the stuff sounded good. And it was shortly after that we asked Jeff to leave the band. And I couldn't tell you why he got asked to leave. It was completely met in Vic's deal. I remember being at Vic's house when they made the phone call to him. To tell him that he was out, but I was just there because I was in the area. I didn't show up because they asked me to. So I don't even know why they asked Jeff to not be in the band. I mean, at that point, I was really still kind of feeling my place out and wasn't making any decisions, really having much input other than guitar-wise. So we scrapped everything that we'd been writing, and when Randy came back, it was, I'd say in less than 30 days, we wrote all of Variable Speed Drive from start to finish. Some of it was scraps of things that Becker and I had worked on before Randy came back, but pretty much we tossed everything that we'd had before, put the record together in a very, very short time.
proud to be a part of Gutter Queen. You know, like I didn't rejoin the band, but I was briefly went to school for music recording. And pretty much as soon as I got there, I realized this is not what I want to do. I want to play in a band. But they were about to record a record, and they're like, well, you know, you're going to school, and you got good ideas, and you're kind of like part of this band in some weird way. Why don't you come and help out on the record? And yeah.
Who was that?
I don't know. Someone just gave me the finger.
Oh.
Oh yeah. So they were like, yeah, why don't you come down and help out? You know, come to some practices and then come in the studio with us and just kind of like throw ideas around. And I think we really came up with a very unique record. It's unique for them, and it's just unique in general. It's one of those really weird records that you might find in a record store 10 years from now and like covered in dust and be like, well, this is a strange little gem, like I don't think it sounds like anything. Whereas like later Cable stuff kind of is more in the rock vein. There's lots of bands doing that. I'm not saying it's bad, but Gutter Queen stands out for me because I think it's really original. I've never heard an album that has like 7 or 8 rock songs, and then like the last 4 tracks are just these kind of weird, noisy experiments. Like the way the record's structured is really different, and I was happy to be a part of it. And I still think that's the best release to this day.
We toured for that record. We didn't even tour as a full band. Vic didn't come with us. And we were touring with the guys that ran Hydra Head. So they were in the same van, in the same house, in the same club with us every night. So they got to really see what Cable was all about.
Look at this fucking commercialism. God damn it. Makes me fucking sick.
Sweet hams.
This is the last show of our tour with ISIS. I'd like to thank Aaron for a last minute filling in on drums for us. And in case you don't know, we're Cable, the band that's not cool enough for fucking anybody.
To be honest with you, I knew what happened in the year 2000. What time period was that? What was Cable doing?
I don't know.
2000. What do you want to know about the Dillinger thing? Let's just start there.
We were on a tour with the Dillinger Escape Plan in Candiria. I think this is what kicked off the little like month of debauchery. And Cable was backstage drinking all of our beer.
Basically, we went to see some bands. ISIS played at Toad's Place, and it must have been in the year 2000, I think. And for whatever reason, I went into that show with kind of a bad attitude. I don't know why. And you know what? It was really, it's in a way, it's kind of coming off just that whole part of the time where I was, for lack of a more eloquent phrase, just kind of fucked up in general. And just was like just negative about like a lot of music and things in general.
And by the time Dillinger Escape Plan went on, Bernie, the guitar player at the time, was really drunk. And I don't know why, but there was some sort of rift between Cable and Dillinger.
By the time they played, I was hammered. I was shit-faced. I remember go in backstage where ISIS was, they had Heinekens everywhere. Heinekens on the floor, Heinekens under the seat, in the corner, in the refrigerator, in a bag. I mean, just Heinekens. So I remember going to work on a bunch of Heinekens, showing up when Randy came to pick me up, half-cocked. Got obviously pretty drunk when I was there. And I just remember by the time they freaking played, Dillinger played, I was so ready to just start some shit. And that's really all I wanted to do, was start some shit. It wasn't like hurt anybody or whatever. And I remember taking the Heineken bottle, finishing a beer, and for whatever reason, I had singled out, with really no premeditation or whatever, just singled out this guitar player that happened to be standing in front of me. That's where I was standing, that's where he was standing. Being right up front and leaning over the monitor and taking Heineken bottles and putting them on the stage, like, as far as I could reach on the other side of his pedal. So it was like between him and his pedal board. And just knowing that would piss me off, obviously, as a guitar player. And doing it like 3 or 4 times, and dude just kept kicking the bottles away, and I'd get another bottle. You're not even supposed to have bottles down in that part of the club. They had this big Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, like, caged, and all the drinkers have to stand behind, you know?
And Bernie, like, I remember watching Bernie watching Dillinger Escape Plan and thinking, like, oh my god, something bad is gonna happen, because he's just heckling them and heckling them. Like, giving him the finger and, like, kind of, like, mocking the way he plays guitar. And I was like, at first it was just kind of funny, like, oh, this guy's just drunk and being an idiot. And then it's just kind of, like, very mean-spirited, and he started to, like, kind of, like, throw his beer at Ben's pedals. And I was like, I can't watch this. This is like, you know, watching someone walk in front of a car that, you know, is like the car's going to hit him. I was like, I'm just going to, like, you know, pretend this isn't happening.
But I was just standing in front of him, leaning into him, acting like an asshole. And the last thing I remember pointing at my head, because he kept, like, swinging his guitar around, doing this, like, total, what I thought, you know what the thing was, is it was like this total Dead Guy ripoff. Yeah, I remember Dead Guy was just always doing this thing where, like, someone would get close and they'd, like, throw their guitars. And even me being, like, a bit of a fucker, and I've done stuff, I've, like, hit people with my guitar. I just remember watching Dead Guy being like, that's fucked up, you know, that's just, you know, whatever. And I'm thinking, you know, fuck that, I'm gonna let him hit me and see how that makes him feel. So I'm pointing in my head, and sure enough, he didn't even hesitate. He just took the body of his guitar and just mashed me on the side of the head. And I was like, wow. And I was, you know, just trying to grab at the guitar player. Remember, I grabbed his neck, and he had some pointy metal guitar, you know, some cheap guitar, and he pulled it out of my hand, and when he did, it bent like a couple tuning keys. I had this big cut on my hand, and then bouncers just grabbed me by my feet, pulled me off the stage, dragged me back through the crowd, downstairs, like, into, like, this Goodfellas-looking kitchen. That, why the club even had a kitchen, I don't understand.
And the next thing I know, I'm at the back of the club, and the music stops, and the lights come on, and security is throwing Vic out.
I mean, the club shut down. Like, everything stopped. This, you know, guitars are feeding back. The whole audience is focused on this one thing.
So I guess what happened, which, you know, Bernie tried to grab Ben from off the stage, and, like, that's when Ben had enough and clocked Bernie with his guitar. Vic, not knowing what was going on, saw Bernie getting beat up and jumps in to, you know, try to rectify the situation. And he ends up getting thrown out.
I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I can't stay in this basement. And I went upstairs looking for Randy, and the first person I saw when I got upstairs was Randy. And I was like, dude, we gotta freaking go.
And I remember talking to Bernie after the show, like, and he was just dumbfounded that the guy would have hit him. I'm like, but man, you fucking tried to pour beer on his pedals. You tried to drag him off the stage, and, like, what did you expect? Those guys were pretty pissed off that.
I got outside. The car somehow, miraculously, while I got outside, was running, ready to go. They threw me in the car, and we took off. And all I remember screaming in the back of the car when we left is just yelling, Dillinger Dead Plan. Fucking Dillinger Dead Plan. Like I was still going to do something after I got totally wrecked by this guy's guitar. I was still being a tough guy. But then I learned after, nobody said a fucking word to me in the car, too. And like 20 minutes into, like, the 45-minute ride, I started to think, like, that probably was bad. Like, Dillinger were real good friends with ISIS. They were on tour with ISIS. the guys at ISIS ran our record label, so I basically just fucked up like, and it was pretty. They knew who I was. I wasn't just some random dude. My friends that were with me shouldn't have been egging me on. They should have tried to stop me from doing that. But at the end of the day, it was just me acting like an asshole. We always wrote right up until we recorded. We would never finish writing and then book recording time 4 months down the road. It's like we'd book the time and use that as sort of like a bookend and say, okay, we have until here to finish writing the songs. So between the time that Northern Fairness was done recording, we went back, decided to play in a completely different tuning again, go back to E. We decided to really take, I think, a bit of a different. We felt like we were getting too low and too heavy. We felt like the songs were getting too long. We really wanted to add a second guitar player and try to go back. My goal with Skywars was to try to go back to like a Gutter Queen, variable speed drive kind of era. More noisy songs, shorter songs, faster songs, a little bit crazier vocals. So my friend Ben came and played guitar. A dude I've been playing guitar with for probably 8 or 10 years at that point. The guy, actually, of all the guitar players I play with, the guy that I play guitar with best, the guy that compliments me the most. And he came into the band, we wrote Skyhorse, and it came out nothing like I thought it was going to sound. And that's hands down my least favorite record.
Mystery's the river of the world. Mystery's the river of the world. Mystery's the river of the world. Mystery's the river of the world.
Those death metal Tom Waits.
And Bruce Springsteen on your spine.
Sorry, I was saying, I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to do like a minute or two.
What the fuck up! What the fuck up! God damn, what the fuck up! What the fuck?
in like the early fall of 2004, we put out Pigs Never Fly, and that was a big thing for us because, I don't know, for me, I was a huge fan of Gutter Queen.
Yeah. Plus, they were like our first band who had done significant body of work before we were involved with them.
Yeah, I think like we were like somewhat frustrated at times because we would have liked them to
play more shows
and promote the record, but they were really upfront from the start and let us know where they were at in their lives and just what they could do.
Sample question.
My favorite Cable record is the next EP we haven't recorded yet.
Really?
And the reason it's my favorite is because I haven't heard any of the songs 1,000 times.
How about the new guys? Should we ask the new guys? Same question. Chris, what is your favorite Cable record and why?
If I had to choose, I would say Northern Failures.
Trust the Gemini, you asshole.
No more questions.
No more questions, please. I'm exhausted.
End of interview.
It's My Right to Be an Asshole. I thought was really great.
It's like the classic. I think that like sums up the whole band. It's My Right to Be an Asshole. That's like we were saying earlier. That's like their whole thing. Like there's.
I'd like to thank Greg, man, for putting this together. It's a fucking totally cool show, cool dance, cool people. Thanks for coming out. This is off a new record that we just came out this week. It's called It's My Right to Be an Asshole.
Maybe in Montana, I'll bring the wine. You bring the shotgun. We'll be fine.
Comes to my mind when I think about Cable. First word off the top of my head would be like, I guess Cable is like one of those bands that, I mean, a lot of bands say it, but I really think they truly don't give a fuck what people think about them at all. They've just always done their own thing, whether it's been horrible for their band or good for their band. Most of the times it's probably not the best decisions they make, like to make a record and then not tour, but you know, like Randy said, you know, it's my right to be an asshole, you know, like I think he firmly believes that. He just doesn't care what you think, and they're just going to do what they're going to do, and if...
do you admire that? Do you think that's an admirable quality?
Well, in some ways, you know, like, it's not the way I would run a band, and it's not the way I guess you would run a successful band, but at the same time, you know, like, they're just like, well, fuck it. I think, you know, they're perfectly content with being one of those, like I said, obscure bands who just kind of like find a CD rack one day and like, you know, what the hell is this? It's this strange little, like, strange music that like hardly anyone's ever heard of.
Like the cool thing was they did the band for like their own primal needs, like it's like something they needed to do for themselves. And I think the music sounds like that. It's like not pretty at all, and it just sounds like something they had to do. And I think that's at the end of the career. Maybe that's why they lost interest, because it wasn't something they needed to do anymore. They had like wives and kids and cats and dogs and litter boxes and whatever. It was like therapeutic for them to make recordings, and it's like, I guess, like a photograph almost, or a bad tattoo.
It's kind of nice that when music doesn't exist as a business, and it exists, which I think what it's supposed to be, which is a creative effort, not only on the part of the band, but on the part of the people listening to it and wanting to hear it. Because you kind of bring that music into your life. You know, and if I'm not writing it, I can maybe identify in some way with the song, with the band, with the people who are in it. You know, there's that connection.